Hey, this is Matthew Ricks, and today on the Music Business Newsletter, we got an email from a guy who's done everything and he's wondering where the money's at. But before we dive into that email, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to subscribe to this channel if you don't already do it. And if you have a question on the music industry that you'd like for me to answer, just go to MatthewRicks.com, click Submit Your Question, give me as many details as possible, and we will answer it here on the channel. But now for the email. He says, "Hey, Matthew, I'm writing because I realize I don't actually understand how the music business works anymore. Not in a theatrical way, but in a real practical sense." Okay, well, we will try to help you. Let's continue with the email. He says, "I'm 29 and I've been releasing music independently for about 5 years, and I feel like I'm constantly being told there's money in music." Well, there can be money in music. It's not overnight. I remember this was, 3 years ago. Guy hit me up on Instagram DM, and he was just like, "Spotify is a scam, Apple Music is a scam, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, what's going on? You know, I thought it was going to be they don't pay enough thing. He goes on to tell me how he's like, last month I did, 100,000 streams on Apple and Spotify combined. And I see it on my TuneCore. And he sends me the screenshot of his TuneCore. And I'm like, "Hey, man, that's great. What's the problem?" He's like, "I haven't been paid yet." And it was like 3 days into the new month. And I was like, "Dude, it's going to be like 2-3 months. He's like, "What? They should pay me as soon as it's over." And I'm like, "They're not in a hurry." That money sits in Spotify's account for a while, collects some interest. Then they kick it over to TuneCore. Sits in their bank accounts, collects some interest. And you go, "Well, mine's nothing." But if you take 100 million songs and you're sitting on interest, that's pretty good money right there. But anyways, rant's over. He says, "But no one ever explains where it actually is or who is seeing it." He said, "Here's my situation. I have around 40,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. 40,000. I have a few songs over 500,000 streams, so 500,000. Okay, first of all, if these two numbers are correct, that is 40,000 monthly listeners is outstanding, and you should be seeing money. That is a huge number, and a song with 500,000 streams. I mean, that's huge, man. I have a Matrix Minute song right now that's sitting at like 945,000 streams on Spotify. And every day it goes up because you guys listen, so thank you for that. I'm just waiting for that meter to roll over to 1 million. I don't know why. I just want it so bad. And then I'll get in and just be like, "Oh, I thought I'd feel different," because that's what happens with me with everything. He continues, so he's got 40,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, 500,000. He's got a couple of songs with 500,000 streams. He says, "I have a small but active fan base online." If you got 40,000 monthly listeners, my guy, you got a little bit bigger than a small but active fan base. He says, "I tour occasionally, sell some merch, and license my music for small indie projects when I can." My grandmother used to say that if this guy gave you a check for $1 million, you'd complain that you got to go to the bank. I think this might be this type of situation, because if all of this is true, we're touring. We got 500,000 streams on a song. We got 40,000 monthly listeners. We're touring. We're selling some merch. We're licensing our music. And we're not happy. He says, "From the outside, people assume I'm doing well." Yeah, you should be. Now, are you buying a Bugatti with it? No. But you should be making some money here. He says, "But when I actually look at the numbers, it feels like everything is spread thin. Streaming money barely covers anything." You got 40,000 monthly listeners. You should be, if you got 40,000 monthly listeners, let's say they all listen to 5 songs. That's 200,000 plays right there on Spotify a month. Bro, you're talking, that's That could be. Now, I don't know where you're from. You don't tell me where you're at in the world. But in the U.S., man, that could be $1,200 to $1,500 a month. And you're saying it barely covers anything? Unless it's a lot of free plays. Non-premium plays. Because then 40,000 plays is like $4. But anyways, let's continue. He said merch helps, but when the room is right. Shows are hit or miss once you factor in travel. So you're going to shows, you're driving, touring. I don't know. You don't say you're in a band or a solo artist or whatever, but so you go and you drive to a show and it could be awesome or not. So you're a touring artist. Merch helps, but only when the room is right. I mean, dude, if you're legit and you got 40,000 monthly listeners and you're playing good shows, those good shows that you do, now the bad shows are bad shows. It happens to everybody. But you might go into a porn market. But if you're playing if you're touring and you're playing good sized rooms, you should have good merch sales, unless you have crap merch or you have it overpriced. Nobody knows who you are and you're selling a shirt for $50 or something. But merch helps, but only when the room is right. I mean, you're telling me you got 500,000 streams on songs and you're touring regularly and your merch is a bust, then it probably sounds like a merch problem. He says, and every opportunity seems to come with someone else taking a percentage. Welcome to the music industry. He says, managers want 15 to 20%. Agents want 10%. Distributors take their cut. Marketing costs never stop. Okay, managers want 15 to 20%. Yes. I don't know. I mean, unless your manager is like helping you like license your music for projects, I don't really know why you need a manager. I don't. An agent getting 10%, yeah, but they're the ones getting you your shows, right? They should be. Distributors taking their cut. I mean, if you're with Ditto or TuneCore or DistroKid, they don't take a cut of distribution. CD Baby, I don't know if they used to. I don't know if they still do. I don't know what The Orchard takes. But those three that I mentioned, they don't take a cut of distribution. You just pay an upfront fee every year. So I don't know why distributors are taking a cut. Marketing costs. You don't tell me what the marketing costs are. I don't know if you're running ads or if you're paying for services to help you reach that 40,000 monthly listeners. But I don't know what marketing costs you would have. And then also on this list here, you don't put touring cost. So I'm a little confused by all this. You don't really give me a lot of information on this one, but we'll continue. He says, I'm not complaining. I love these emails from artists that all they do is complain. Then they go, I'm not complaining. And then they continue to complain. Yes, you are complaining. He says, I know this is a business. I just don't understand how people move from this level to something sustainable. You got 40,000 monthly streams. You tell me you're touring regularly. You are actually... If you're an independent artist and you're licensing your music to projects, you're getting paid for that. You are, bro, you're in the 1% of artists. If you are touring, licensing your projects, 40,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, songs with over 500,000 streams, you are not the typical artist who emails here. Usually we get like the war stories like, hey, how do I turn my life around? But then you get the emails from the artists they got 4,000 monthly listeners. And there's nothing wrong. I love those emails. The guys who, they're just trying to get a gig. But you're doing all of this and you're not making any money. That is interesting. He says, what confuses me the most is that everyone around me seems to survive by doing adjacent things, producing for other artists, writing for other artists, music teaching lessons, running studios, creating content. Well, if you're touring, you really can't do lessons. And I know some artists who do producing when they're not on the road, but that's not really a thing. Writing for other artists is a gamble, because you can write for other artists, but you don't know if like the label's going to pick it up or how much they're going to gut the song. I mean, you might originally brought a song and you own 70% of the publishing, but after they add the other writers and they change it and they, you know, shorten it or make the chorus better or whatever, you could be down to 15%. I've seen that happen, actually. There was an artist. I was working with this artist, up and coming artist. We did her song. It was phenomenal. Then a bigger artist actually caught it. Like, they heard it and they wanted it. And we're like, oh, we got to do this. Like, this is going to be great publishing for you, be great publishing for the company. We're going to, you know, and everybody agreed. They went and did like 10 rewrites on this song. And let's say the song's name was Alien. By the time they got done adding all the songwriters, because the artist has to get in there because they want some publishing. The producer's got to get in there because they want some publishing. Sometimes your A&R guy wants some publishing, so he'll add to the song as well. I never did that, but that's a thing that A&R directors do. The song went from, like, let's just call it Alien, went to, like, you know, Man on Fire. It was like all they basically left was the melody. And the original artist, you know, I think got like 20% publishing. Now what they did was they flipped it and they just released a song on their own, which is what you know, because all you're gonna have at the end of the day is somebody, you didn't sell it to them, you just let them use it. So really, at the end of the day, if both songs blow up, all you're going to do is get accused of like stealing their melody line, which happens all the time. Running studios, I mean, yeah, there's some producers who are artists who tour, who run studios. Creating content, as an artist, you should be creating content anyways, and if you're doing it right, you could be getting monetized on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok, and that just kind of runs parallel with your music and touring, but I don't guess you're not doing that. He says, I'm sitting here wondering, is the music itself ever supposed to be the main source of income? Dude, you have 40,000 monthly listeners. You have songs over 500,000 streams. You tell me you're touring regularly. You tell me you've sold your music to projects. But see, here's the thing. I don't know where you live. I mean, you might live in San Francisco or New York City or London, which is really expensive to live. Or you could be in Jackson, Mississippi, where it's pretty cheap to live. You just don't tell me where to live, but you should be making money here. If you have a manager that's taking 15 to 20%, that's okay. They should be making, you know, they should be getting you work to make up for that. Same with an agent. I mean, but your booking agent's probably getting you all your shows anyways. I just don't know where you're not making any money with what you're telling me. Unless you're driving to shows, you're getting paid $500 for a show and you're paying $1,000 in expenses with band and everything. If you're a solo artist and you're bringing a band out and you're paying them per show, that's really going to hit into your budget. If you are in a band, you guys are splitting it up a couple of ways, you still should be making some money here. I'm not saying you're a millionaire, but you shouldn't be sending this email. Something's amiss. He says, or is that just something we tell ourselves early on? No, you should be making money with what you're doing. You should be making money. He says, I'm not chasing fame. I'm chasing stability. Well, you're an artist. You're never going to have stability because, you know, you could be the biggest artist in the world and then have to go on vocal rest and have to cancel a whole tour. You could be signed to a label and your A&R director gets fired and you got a new A&R director who can't stand you or like your music or whatever, and they shelve you. Like, there is no stability in music. That's a myth. I don't really think there's stability in a lot of life. You know, you go get a 9 to 5, the company could close tomorrow. You know, you get hit by a bus tomorrow. There's, you know, that all the stability goes out the window. He says, I want to know what's a realistic grown-up music career actually looks like. Whether the path I'm on leads there or just keeps me busy forever. I mean, dude, I've said this 10 times already. You should be making money. You should be, I mean, one, you put that line in there about you're not doing content creation. So you should be doing content creation and reaching the goal where you can start making money from TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, making shorts, reels, all of that. Promoting your music, promoting your upcoming shows, whatever. I don't understand why your merch isn't making more money if you're doing 40,000 monthly listeners. I don't know where you're not. I wish you would have told me, when you told me you had 40,000 monthly listeners, I wish you would have told me how many streams you have all in every month. Another question I would have if we were just sitting here talking to each other is, who handles your money? Do you get all the money and then you pay everybody, or is somebody bringing it in, taking their cut, giving you the rest, and then you got to pay the rest of the people? I'm just wondering about that. Because you should be making some money here. He goes, so my question is, where does music realistically come from for independent artists? Shows, streaming, merchandise. But you doing that, but then you also have your music licensed to indie projects. You need to, once again, get on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, try to get monetized doing that. That's where your money comes in independently. Same thing it does when you're a major artist. It all comes from the same place. It's just the stages are bigger. The size of the crowd is bigger. The more merch you sell. But it's all the same place. It's just on a smaller scale. He says, and at what point does a team actually make sense financially? Well, if you just told me you're paying a manager 15 to 20%, and that's where your money's going out, I mean, I'm a big believer that no artist should get a manager unless it's like, we need you to negotiate a deal with a label, handle licensing deals, stuff like that. But a lot of artists get managers just because they don't want to do the little stuff, and they're just giving away their money. Some actually give away their publishing too, which is ridiculous to give to a manager. He said, how do artists avoid building careers that look impressive but don't pay? You're giving too much of your money out to people, which I think, as we continue in this email, I think you're probably giving a lot of your money away. Or you're not watching where your money's going and somebody's giving it away or taking more than they should. Skimming off the top. Because these numbers just don't. You should be like, you should, with what you're doing, if you're telling me the truth, your email should be, where do we go from here? Not, how do I make money? That is crazy. Yeah, I would probably say I would look to see where your money's going, because it's probably got some legs of its own. He says, and how do you stop feeling like you're doing a lot of work without building leverage? I mean, you got 40,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. You got your music on, you're licensing your music out to projects. You're touring. You're selling merch. Like, what else do you want here? You're building. You're doing stuff right now that artists who watch this would give their arm for. And you're like, yeah, it's not enough. But I'm not complaining. I promise. He says, I'm not burnt out yet. Really, guy? He says, I'm just confused, and I'd rather understand the business side now than wake up in 10 years and realize I misunderstood the game. I think you need to figure out where your money's going. I think you need to figure out, with that 40,000 monthly listeners, is it premium plays or is it a lot of free plays? Because if it's free plays, you're not going to make any money, but also you got to try to, typically bots are free plays. You mentioned marketing money. I don't know. You never mentioned what you're paying marketing for. You mentioned paying for distribution. I don't know why you're paying for distribution. So I would see where your money's going. You might have some really bad deals. You might have someone stealing your money, but I don't know why you're paying a monthly fee for distribution. I don't know why you got 40,000 monthly listeners on Spotify and you're asking me how they understand the game. If your numbers are correct, if you're not playing me, none of this makes sense. He says, appreciate your perspective, Bob. Well, Bob, yeah, I would look to see where your money's going. Something's not right with your money. So if everything is on the up and up, then your numbers aren't as real as you're telling me. There's no way you're doing 40,000 monthly listeners on Spotify and you're broke. I'm not saying you're rich, but you shouldn't be sending this email with 40,000 monthly listeners. This is an email an artist with 400 monthly listeners, or 4,000, not even 4,000, 400. But you're telling me you got 40,000. Now, he doesn't include any links to anything, but we'll take him at his word, because why would he lie to me? But yeah, you got to figure out where your money's going. If all of this is true, you got to figure out where your money's going, because your money might have legs on it and it's just walking away from you. But you seem like you're just giving marketing, distribution. You don't tell me what your tour costs are. So come up with a budget, like if you get paid $1,000, you need to leverage that into, that show needs to get leveraged into another show. So you have two shows that are paying $1,000. Maybe your cost is $700 and you get $1,300 after everything. But if your distributor is taking a cut and you're not signed to a label, you need to switch that distributor. I don't know what marketing you're doing, but that doesn't need to be happening as well. And lastly, like I said earlier, I don't know if you're getting the money and then you're paying everybody out, or if somebody else is getting the money and then they're paying you and then you got to pay everybody out. But figure out where your money's going, because this just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But good luck, and thank you for the email. And if you have a question on the music industry that you'd like for me to answer, just go to MatthewRicks.com, click submit your question, give me as many details as possible, and we'll answer it here on the channel. And until next time, I will talk to you later.